أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge in Allah against shaitan, and I begin with the name of Allah, the eternal source of mercy and grace. I greet you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Almighty Allah be upon one and all of you. It is Rabi al-Awwal, and to reach you with no surprise that I'm going to talk about aspects of the Seerah, or the life of the Prophet ﷺ in relation to contemporary Muslim society. This month is a special month, not only in the lives of Muslims, but a special day in the lives of the oppressed and the downtrodden of the world. On this day, more than 1400 years ago, the world was blessed with a person who would become a Nabi of Allah, Khatam al-Nabi, the final messenger, or the final Nabi, and transform the lives of those around him, and in turn those are many others who adhered to his message. This month should give hope to the weak and the oppressed, and serve as a warning to the oppressors and exploiters of humanity. Because as we examine some salient features of the transformation brought by the seal of the messengers, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we'll see that this was a message challenging the exploiters of humanity and liberating the oppressed. Unfortunately, when we speak of the transformation brought by the Prophet ﷺ, we tend to reduce it to mere bedroom and bathroom affairs, and we literally split hair over hair, and we give little or no attention to the social reformation brought by the Messenger ﷺ. What he was confronted with was an enormous task, one that he did not have a plan as to how to fulfill. This was beyond any human being. It could only have been done through divine intervention. The human mind alone was insufficient for solving this problem. Hence, the need for wahi. And combined with aql, would cause the light of guidance to break through the darkness of ignorance and evil. Unfortunately for us, once the arrival of Allah's final messenger brings hope to the world, we who are the proclaimed followers of him stand guilty of the most heinous crimes, which he will find despicable. He will want nothing to do with those kidnappers who kidnapped 500 young girls in Nigeria, who barely been found, who were married off to others in the name of Islam. He will want nothing to do with slave traders, as what is happening in the Middle East, where Africans in particular from North Africa are slave traded into the Middle East, virtually bought and sold, and are not treated with their basic human rights, as conferred to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as conferred to them by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will want nothing to do with those who murder their critics. So when there's an academic dispute between two parties and the one party resorts or has criticism against the government, then the government resorts to killing, poisoning, drowning, and in fact dissipating the entire body, as we've seen with Jamal Khashoggi. These are things that are relevant to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's relevant to the message and the mission of Muhammad ﷺ. When we separate these and we think that a reasonable substitute will be in adhering to a specific dress code or exterior only, this is when we fail to recognize the message of the Prophet ﷺ or the life of the Prophet ﷺ integrated in the Quran. The largest man-made disaster is at the hands of Muslims, aided and abetted by the weapon suppliers in the Western nations. I'm talking about Yemen, I'm talking about Syria, aided and abetted by the West. A disaster carefully designed by people who call themselves Muslim, again aided and abetted by the West. Those who take their seats at the Haram, who read Allahumma Ansuril Muslimin and dispense aerial bombardment on Yemeni women and children. This is anti-seerah. We cannot separate the seerah from this. Does anyone think that Muhammad ﷺ would want anything to do with this? But here we are fighting over the trivialities. You know, I've got many messages about whether we should be doing anything to celebrate the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. And the question of bid'ah comes about. How about just again prioritizing what are the important issues in our society? Instead of talking about these things, the so-called bid'ah, do you think dispensing an aerial bomb on Yemen or on Syria is bid'ah? Should we be having that discussion? That's kufr and taghut. So when we talk about the Prophet ﷺ and remind ourselves of his message, there is no bid'ah in that. Of course, if we go to extremes, then there is issues with it. But what we're talking about is the mission of the Prophet ﷺ, and this should serve every year as a reminder to believers to go back to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to take the messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam out of the book in terms of the law and give him life so we can live that life. Our noble messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam confronted many challenges in his life. Now, let's look at, before we go into further aspects, Michael Hart, the author of the 100, says, my choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers and may be questioned by others, but he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and the secular levels. Now, religious, we all know what is religious. Well, in Islam we don't separate, but religious is religious and secular is to do with the affairs of the state of your political and social life. We forget this aspect quite conveniently, because this is the aspect that's going to challenge us the most. And we'll come to it now. George Bernard Shaw said, the world is in dire need of a man with the mind of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In my opinion, if he was given control of the world today, he would solve our problems and secure the peace and happiness which the world is longing for. How? Now, there's a verse in the Quran where the Prophet ﷺ says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ. The Rasul says, oh my Rabb, inna qawmi, my community have distanced themselves from the Quran. Surah 25 verse 30. I found a beautiful hadith where Anas bin Malik says, the Messenger of Allah said, Allah has His own people among mankind. They said, O Messenger of Allah, who are they? He said, they are the Ahlul Quran. They are the adherents of the Quran. Then he's reported to have said, The book of Allah contains right guidance, the light. Whoever adheres to it and holds fast to it, he is upon right guidance, and whoever deviates from it goes astray. So what does this point us back to? This points us back to the importance that the Quran plays in the life of a believer. What we've done is that we want to try and find the messenger, but outside the Quran. What message did the Messenger ﷺ bring? He brought the message of the Quran. Upon his death, what did he leave for the believers? What did he leave for the believers? He left the Quran. They took so much care that he appointed scribes, professional writers, whom the Quran describes as noble, independent writers. And he tasked them to put the Quran to writing. Why? Because he did not want to leave any detail out of this book that may be subject to speculation. So he left a clear copy with the believers. And he left nothing else but the Quran in writing except his letters that he sent to certain leaders. But as a form of guidance, we made sure that the Quran was preserved for us. So we have no excuse. And those of us who profess to love the Prophet ﷺ, and that's all of us, let's examine that love and measure it in accordance with our knowledge of the Quran. It was known that Umar radiallahu anhu, when a governor was appointed, this person went to him and said, this poor person is appointed as governor, but he has knowledge of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does Umar radiallahu anhu say to him? He said, did I not say to you that Allah elevates with His book and He disgraces with His book? In other words, those who seek the knowledge of the Quran, who go and study it in detail, should be all of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate such people. And of course, along the road, you will encounter difficulty. You will encounter the naysayers who want to make the Quran inaccessible to you and I. Why? Because their power is at stake. They're no longer going to be able to dictate to us. So the Prophet ﷺ was intending to liberate every single member of the Ummah to do their own thinking, to be liberated in their thinking and not to become dependent upon scholars, etc. What we see in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the arbaba min dunillah. They're those who take their scholars and their doctors of law, arbaba min dunillah, as lords in derogation of Allah. Why do they do this? Because they themselves are unfamiliar with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when an imam gets up and he says, you know, you can divorce your wife by saying talaq, 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 and it's over. Or another imam from another madhab gets up and says, you know, you can marry a woman for 2 hours in muta and divorce her. And we say, oh yes, that's fine. And they call this ibadat. We who are ignorant of the Quran fall into this trap. And we say it's fine, because why? The Mawli Sahib is saying, Arbabam min dunillah. We don't go back to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and challenge these people by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, I'm not saying it's shirk. What I'm saying is if you have two authorities or you have a competing authority with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you and I are in violation of the kalima. La ilaha illa Allah. There is no authority except Allah. So in other words, if anyone says anything to you and I, and if it controverts or contradicts the Quran, we cannot observe that law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that law of that person. Why? Because we have one God only. And this is what the primary message of the Prophet ﷺ was, one God. The Meccan leadership vehemently opposed the message of Tawheed. Why? Because they understood the consequences for them. The oneness and authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant that He alone gives the instructions and that mankind are His slaves. All of us are His slaves. The only true master is Allah. the one true God. With the message that Rasulullah brought, he met severe opposition. But instead of bowing down to the whims and fancies of the kuffar, this made the believers stronger. They rallied together behind the Prophet ﷺ, and his eventual mission was to re-establish control of the Kaaba under monotheism. Now, what is monotheism? Monotheism is not just the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you read throughout the Quran, it is tied together with a message of justice. In other words, where you see injustice, then you speak against it. So the Kaaba was the center of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through which the oneness of Allah would be expressed, His supreme authority would be expressed, and the message of social justice would be transferred to the world. Unfortunately, that aspect of the Seerah, no one wants to talk about. We think it's politics. So how did the Prophet ﷺ achieve this? This mission was greater. He had no idea that he's going to be a prophet of Allah. He had no idea he's going to be chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a prophet. In Surah 42 verse 52 Allah says, "And thus have we by our command sent inspiration to you. You knew not what was revelation and what was faith." You didn't know these concepts. But we have made the Quran, we have made it a light wherewith we guide such of our servants as we will, and verily you guide them to a straight way. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad, before the revelation, couldn't serve as a guide, because it was not his function, an official guide. He had to be tasked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. And Surah 42 verse 52 tells us that Allah chose him, and therefore as a result of Allah's guidance, as a result of the Quran, he became a hadi, a guide. So how did he achieve this? In fact, just because one of the greatest challenges facing the Muslim world is the disunity. The Shia Sunni split and the Sunni on Sunni split. And if you count the sects, I think you need to invent a new calculator. That's the amount of sectarianism that exists in Islam. And if you quantify the hatred that exists among some of them, it's immeasurable. I look at one verse of the Quran, Muhammadur Rasulullah. If you want to celebrate Seerah, just do with one verse. Muhammadur Rasulullah, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. Muhammad is the Rasul of Allah. What does the Rasul do? Comes to you and he gives you Allah's message. We have Allah's message. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has done his work. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, and of course he lived by it. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, those who are with him, أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ, are strong against those who resist the truth. Kuffar are not people who don't believe in the truth. They are part of mankind. Kuffar are those who actively resist and conceal the truth. In other words, who are hostile against the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Against such people, those who are with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam are strong against them. Ruhama'u baynahum. And they are Ruhama'u baynahum. They are merciful with each other. And when this message stuck in the heads or the minds and the hearts of the followers of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, no challenge, no difficulty became impossible for them. Nothing became impossible for them. Nothing was insurmountable. They were able to then walk into Makkah with a bloodless victory, take it over, and not coerce a single person into accepting Islam. Not coerce a single person into accepting Islam. Whoever came in through their own volition, through their own choice. Why? Because the principles of Islam are too beautiful for anyone to be coerced into accepting Islam. So next time we meet, we'll continue on some of the other challenges that the Prophet ﷺ faced through the eyes of the Quran and how he overcame these to establish a true Islamic society that goes well beyond bedroom, bathroom, and fashion. Goes well beyond that. Goes into the heart of society and the social justice aspects. That is what the mission and the message of the Prophet ﷺ, or its overarching objective, was meant to achieve. And he did so quite well. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.